Alright, today what we're going to do is create a processing sketch to draw a simple SMPTE test pattern. So we'll start out here with a header up at the top that's going to describe what the sketch will do and who wrote it and when. And then we can actually start on our code. And again, this is based on the algorithm that we've already created. So we've done some design work and we know what we're doing. And the first thing we have to do is size the window. We have to create the window in the aspect ratio that the problem statement called for. So a 400 by 300 pixel window does that very well. Then we're also going to turn off the outlining behavior of the drawing on processing so that our test pattern rectangles don't end up with black lines around them, rather they're just the solid colors. And then we have a little bit of computation to do. The first one is to decide how wide each rectangle is going to be. And what we'll do is let processing figure that out for us. So we'll call this rectangle width, and that will be equal to the width of the window divided by 7.0, because 7 is the number of rectangles that we're going to be drawing. Then the other variable that we need is the upper left coordinate, x coordinate, of each rectangle, because we're going to be varying that as we go through. Okay, so we'll call that x, and we'll initialize it to 0.0. Now we can go ahead and start drawing our actual rectangles. So we'll start out with the white rectangle. We'll set our paintbrush color to white with the fill command, and then we'll actually draw our rectangle. So we'll start at the coordinate x, 0, and the rectangle is going to be rectangle width wide, and since we want it to run clear from the top to the bottom of the window, it'll be height pixels tall. Okay? Alright, now if we test this real quick, you can see that we have our white bar. The rest of this hasn't been filled in yet, but we know that our white rectangle works. It's usually a good idea to test incrementally like that so that you can tell if what you've done so far works. Okay, now we can move on to our next rectangle, which is the yellow rectangle. And to do that, we have to first increment the value of x, and then we can do our fill and our drawing. Now our fill and drawing commands are going to be almost exactly the same, so I'll just copy and paste them. What's different is that I have to use the RGB values for yellow. Okay? And I suppose it would be good if I spell my variables correctly. Now when I run this, I have my first two rectangles, the white and the yellow, and I can continue on now with the rest, and they're going to be very similar. Okay, so my next rectangle is the cyan colored one, and the RGB values for that are 0, red, 255 for green, and 255 for blue. And rather than testing each of these individually, I'm just going to go ahead and finish them out. My green will be 0, 255, 0. Magenta will be 255, 0, 255. Red will obviously be just 255, 0, 0 on the colors. And my last rectangle, the blue one, will be 0, 0, 255 on my RGB values. Okay? So now if I run my sketch, I get the full test pattern like we want. So, pretty simple sketch, but notice that the way that we calculated the rectangle width based on the actual width of the window means that we can change the size and the sketch will still work without having to change anything else. So in other words, if I go in here and change this to be 800 by 600, now my test pattern still works even though I have a larger window. And obviously if I go the other direction, 200 by 150, it still works. Okay, so that's one of the benefits of letting processing do all the calculations for us, is that we don't have to change everything every time that the size of the window changes. Alright, so there is our test pattern drawing sketch.